Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today, inshallah, we are going to talk about or we'll be talking about the determinant of the price elasticity of demand, the income elasticity of demand, cross price elasticity of demand, and if we have enough time, we will go to the price elasticity of supply. The major question here is, what are the main factors affect the elasticity of demand or the price elasticity of demand? What are the main determinants of the price elasticity of demand? How can we say that the price or the demand for Pepsi is elastic? How can we, or why do we say that the price elasticity of demand for flour is inelastic? This is the question here. What? Yes. No, in general, what are the main factors affect the elasticity? Why do we say that the demand for flour is inelastic? Exactly. This is number one is the availability of substitutes. So here, the main determinants of the price elasticity of demand. Determinants of the price elasticity of demand. Number one is the availability of substitutes. The demand for Pepsi is elastic because it has so many substitutes. The demand for Pepsi is elastic. The demand for flour is inelastic. Demand for medicine, for drugs, is perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic. Which means that if the product has many substitutes, Pepsi has many substitutes like Coca-Cola, like 7-Up, like Mirinda. Tamam? So here we have so many substitutes. Medicine, drugs. Specific type of medicine, like the demand for insulin for the diabetic patients. Pepsi has many substitutes. So here we have many substitutes for the product, so the demand will be elastic. Here, if demand for flour has one substitute, so demand will be less elastic. Medicine, or one type of medicine, is important, is necessary for it has no substitutes. In this case, we can see that the demand is perfectly inelastic, which means the lower number of substitutes or the less number of substitutes, the less demand or the less elasticity of demand. The more number of substitutes, the more elastic demand. So, increasing the number of substitutes increases the price elasticity of demand. Increase the price elasticity of demand. All right? Tamam? Okay. Is it clear? Yeah. Let's go to something else. Or the second determinant of demand. Or the price elasticity of demand. The second determinant of the price elasticity of demand, which is what? Yeah, who can give us the second? Yes. Where? Okay. T? Okay. Sorry? The amount of income spent on the product. خلينا نمشي بالترتيب. Number 2, the necessity of the product for the consumer. The necessity of the product for the consumer. Is the product important? Is it necessary for the consumer or not? This is the question. So, number 2 is the necessity of the product for the consumer. Is it easy to give up it? Is it necessary for the consumer? Like the demand for flour here. Demand for flour, is the flour, is it necessary for the consumer or not? Is the medicine, is it necessary for the consumer? Yes. The more important of the product here, the more important. The more the product is important for the consumer, the more the product is important for the consumers, the less elastic demand. صح؟ كل ما كانت أهميته أعلى كل ما كان الإلاستيسيتي أقل. إذن the less elasticity of demand will be. Because the price elasticity of demand, PED, the price elasticity of demand formula is the change in the quantity demanded percent over the change in price percent. Let us assume that the price of a flour increased by 10%. The quantity demanded goes down by less than 10%, 3%. Let us assume 3%. هذا بالابسوليوت value 0.3 بالابسوليوت 0.3 it's less than 1. مظبوط؟ هلا الجيفنج اب كل ما زادت النسيسيتي البرودكت كل ما كان الجيفنج اب اقل. ما بقدر اضحي فيها السلعه. صح؟ So the more the product is important for the consumer, he cannot get or she cannot give up it when the price increases. So the demand will be less elastic. Okay? For Pepsi, it's not necessary for the consumer, and it's easy to give up it when the price goes up. خلي البيبسي يطلع ب 10%. The quantity demanded declined by 40% because the consumer will the product is less necessary or it's not necessary for the consumer. هذا راح يكون قديش عندنا minus 4 بالabsolute value it's less than 4 equals 4. It's less than 1. Bigger than 1. So the demand will be elastic. So the more necessary the product for the consumer, the more the product is necessary, important for the consumer, the demand will be less elastic. Okay? تمام? The third point, or the third determinant of demand is what your mate or classmate said, which is the amount of income spent on the product. The amount, so the third determinant of the price elasticity of demand is number 3, the amount of income spent on the product. And let's have the following example. The demand for salt. الملح. قديش بيشكل البورشن تبعه من الانكم تبعي؟ جزء بسيط جدا. The demand for salt, the price of salt is an example here. قديش represents هذا من الانكم؟ قديش بكم كيلو الملح؟ 1 shekel. The price per kilogram of salt equals 1 shekel, which represents a small part of your income, a small portion of your income, a small amount of your income. قديش بيشكل؟ واحد بياخذ بالمينيمم يعني بده ياخذ له 2000 شيكل، 2000 شيكلز، قديش هذا بيشكل؟ واحد من 2000. تمام؟ So salt represents, or the portion of salt in your income is very small here. The amount is spent, the amount of income is spent on salt is small or very small here. تمام? Let us assume that the price of salt increased by 50%. Let us assume that the price of salt increased by 50%. يعني بكم صار سعر الكيلو؟ شيكل ونص. يعني كان شيكل 50% increased. قديش صار؟ شيكل ونص. The quantity demanded of salt بكم بتنزل؟ يمكن ب1%، يمكن ب2%، يمكن ولا حاجة. صح؟ يعني شو بتشكل يعني نسبة الهاي. So the price increased, the price of salt per kilogram of salt increased by 50%. The quantity demanded of salt يمكن ما ينزلش بالمرة. might be increased by 2%. Just 2%. طب اعملوا لي elasticity، شو في elastic ولا inelastic؟ ED change the quantity demanded percent over change in the price percent. According to our assumption here that the price of salt increased by 50%. هذا نزل by 2%. Minus positive. قديش هذا؟ .04 بالabsolute value. It's less than equals 0.04. It's less than 1. Is it elastic or inelastic? Inelastic. طيب نشوف demand for هلا هيك. Let's see. The amount of income spent on salt is small. Demand ماله؟ And less elastic. Demand is inelastic. طب خلي البورشن تبع البرودكت high في البادجت. Like the demand for what? Clothes. Okay. قديش بشكل من دخلك هذا السبندنج ما هو difference from consumer to another. خذ البرودكت بيشكل 50% من دخلك من مصروفاتك. تمام؟ خلي البرايس تطلع ب 20%، شو اللي بصير؟ بينزل كثير. صح؟ مظبوط ولا لا؟ لأن they will try to find other substitutes. صح ولا لا؟ إذا هنا هيك as the amount of income spent on the product will be small, the smaller the demand for product will be less elastic. هذا السولت هو أقرب مثال ممكن إنه يمشي معنا. تمام؟ طيب. The fourth determinant of the price elasticity of demand, what is? What is it? What is the fourth factor affect the price elasticity of demand? The consumer's income or wealth. Number 4 is the consumer income or wealth. the price of a chicken goes up by 20%, مين بتأثر أكثر؟ الغني ولا الفقير؟ The wealthy families or poor families? Exactly. مين عنده ال giving up أعلى؟ مين بضحي أكثر؟ 100%. إذا هيك. Let's have the following example here. The wealthy families or rich families or rich individuals and poor individuals wealthy families means the rich families. And let's have the chicken's example here. If the price of a chicken increased by 30%. عملوا analysis on the quantity demanded for wealthy families and the effects or impacts on the demand for poor individuals or poor families. نشوف rich families بكم الكوان demand بده ينزل والrich families بكم بده ينزل. تمام؟ For this is the assumption here. The price of a chicken increased by 30%. Or the price of meat. All right? So, for the rich families, or the families with higher income, شو اللي بصير؟ The price increased by 30%. I expect that the quantity demanded will go down by maybe 5%. This is an assumption. So let's calculate the price elasticity of demand for chicken for the rich families here. So PED equals change in quant demanded percent over change in price percent. How much is the increase in the prices? 30%. And the quantity demanded for rich families declined by 5%. Negative, positive. 1/6 هذا minus 1 over 6 equals طبعا في المية. قديش هذا بيطلع؟ 0 minus 0 point. قديش 5 على 30 حدا يعملها على السريع. 0.60%. The absolute value equals 0.16. It's less than 1. So the demand here is inelastic. تمام؟ Inelastic demand. هذا لمين؟ For the rich families. طب مين عنده giving up أعلى؟ The poor families. Giving up أعلى means the higher giving up means the higher elasticity of demand. كل ما صار يقولوا إن السلعة مش مهمة بديش إياها كل ما كان elasticity أعلى. تمام؟ نشوف poor families. For the poor families here, as the price of a chicken increased by 30%, I expect that the poor families will give up the product by the quantity demanded by larger than 30%. بقول لك شو بدي فيها؟ بناكل عدس. صح ولا لا؟ هيك اللي بصير. So the quantity demanded will go down by, let us assume, by 70%. تمام؟ طيب. So the price elasticity of demand here for the poor families, change in quantity demanded percent over change in price percent equals change in price equals 30%, and the decline in the quantity demanded by 70%. minus 70 over positive 30 equals minus 2.33, and the absolute value equals 2.333. It's bigger than 1. The demand is elastic. So the demand for poor families is more elastic than the demand for the rich families, rich individuals, which means the higher income is, or the consumers is, the lower or the less elasticity of demand is. مظبوط؟ اللي دخله أعلى, the higher income will be, شو الوضع بيكون؟ Or the higher end, the consumers with higher income, with higher wealth, the demand will be less elastic. The less elastic demand will be. Okay? تمام؟ طيب. The last determinant of demand, what is it? What is the last determinant of the price elasticity of demand? Time, yes. Let's go to the last determinant of the price elasticity of demand, which is time. Number 5 is the time here. Here we have to distinguish between the long run and the short run. Short run, short term, and long term. In the short term, the demand will be less elastic in the long term, or than the long term. To understand the idea, let's have the following example. The smokers, in the short run, let us assume that the price per pack of cigarettes increased by 2 shekels or 5 shekels. In the short run, increasing the prices per pack of cigarettes increased by 5 shekels. The quantity demanded will decline. And let us assume that the price increased by 40% here. In the short run, the quantity demanded will go down, let us assume by 20%. The demand for cigarettes in general is inelastic because it has a few number of substitutes. اللي بدخن شو عنده بديل الشيشة صح؟ تمام. So the demand is inelastic in general. In the long term, the smokers will try to find substitutes or to kick the habit here. مظبوط؟ Yes. مظبوط. In the long term, because they cannot afford, they will try to adapt the situation. بيحاول يتأقلم مع الوضع الموجود هذا. بس في اللونج تيرم لأنه هذا بيستحوذ على يعني البورشن تبعه عالي بالإنكم. تمام؟ So they will try to kick the habit here. So the demand will be يعني ال giving up بصير عالي. The demand will be more elastic. صح؟ مش فاهمين؟ طبعا another example. قبل 5-6 سنين تقريبا كان في عندنا مشكلة في الفيول في البلد. فاكرين؟ الجالون هذا تبع اللي هو 20 لترز كان $100. انا بتذكر انا اشتريته ب $100. الجالون هذا للجب عندي ب $100 اشتريته. اللي هلقيت هو عندك البرايس تبعه اقل، يعني بتحكي عن 6 في 2 120 شيكلز. تمام. السؤال، الناس بالشورت ران استوعب الوضع، استوعب انه البرايس طلع تبعه، فالكوانتيتي ديماند ديكلايند باي سمول، يعني باي يعني سمولر، يعني سمولر اماونت percentage. تمام. In the long term they will try to find substitutes. عشان هيك راحوا على وين؟ على السيرج. اللي عنده سيارات مرسيدس شو صار يساوي؟ راح على الكوكينج جاس، وفي ناس راحت على السيرج. بمعنى they tried to find a new substitutes. So in the long term the demand becomes or has become more elastic. In the short run it's difficult to find substitutes. ما فيش بدائل في الشورت ران، ما فيش بدائل. The demand will be less elastic. In the long term they tried to find a new substitutes. شو صار؟ more elastic. صح؟ ولا مش واضح؟ Then هذا in the short run demand is inelastic or less elastic. In the long term, the consumers will try to find the new substitutes for the product. ما بيقدر يتحمل انه يقعد شهر وشهرين وثلاثه يتحمل الكوست هذا العالي. تمام؟ They cannot afford. They cannot adapt with the situation. They will try to find a new substitutes for the product. So in the long term, the demand will be more elastic than the short run. Okay? Let's go to something else. As we mentioned before, the price elasticity of demand represents the relationship between the change in prices or the percentage change in quantity demanded due to the change in the price. The PED shows the percentage change in quantity demanded due to the percentage change in price. What will happen to the quantity demanded when the price change? And we said that the price elasticity of demand is always negative because it shows or represents the negative relationship between the prices and the quantity demanded. As the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down, and it's always negative. Due to the theory, because you're declining positive, or sometimes if the price goes down, the quantity demanded will go up. So it's always, the sign is always negative. The negative sign here represents the negative relationship between the prices and the quantity demanded in all cases. طبعا في هذا exceptions للثيوري في بعض السلع مش محله هنا. هذا في الادفانس courses. تمام. Let's go to the income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand, IED. IED is the change in quantity demanded percent over the change in income percent. Which means, what will happen to the quantity demanded if income changed? This is the income elasticity of demand, not the price elasticity of demand. It's an income elasticity of demand. What will happen to the quantity demanded if income goes up or goes down? Let us assume that the consumer's income increases. What will happen to the quantity demanded? Not always, because we have to talk about or to distinguish between the normal goods and inferior goods, which has been studied in the last chapter. Smooth? normal goods, like demand for fresh meat, and inferior goods, like the demand for inferior goods. تمام? So, here, frozen meat. As income goes up, what will happen to the demand for frozen? The demand or the quantity demanded goes down. مظبوط? So, the sign here will be negative. Frozen meat is an inferior good. Increasing the consumer's income leads to a declining in the quantity demanded. So the sign will be what? Negative. Because you're increasing, declining, the positive times negative, then the sign will be negative. Right? Yes. For fresh meat, as the consumer's income goes up, the quantity demand or the demand for products go up. So positive, the result would be positive here. Or negative, the result will be positive. So here we're talking about normal goods. The sign here has a meaning. صح؟ الساين إلها مدلول. مظبوط؟ If the income elasticity of demand has a positive sign, the product would be normal. If it has a negative sign, it should be inferior good. The same formula, a midpoint formula, but instead of the price, you have to put income. You have to use income. The same formula. تمام? But here the difference is the sign has a meaning here. And the price elasticity of demand, it's always negative. The meaning here is just to represent the negative relationship or to show the relationship between the negative relationship between the prices and the quantity demand. Here, it has a meaning. If the sign of the income elasticity of demand was positive, the good is normal. Here, negative signs should be inferred. And let's have examples. In the price elasticity of demand, the midpoint formula, the price elasticity of demand formula, the midpoint formula, the ARC formula, the price elasticity of demand was QD2 minus QD1 over P2 minus P1 times the summation of prices P2 plus P1 over QD2 plus QD1. For the income elasticity of demand, the same formula, but we have to use income here. Quant demanded 2 minus quant demanded 1 over I2 minus I1 times summation of I's here, I2 plus I1 over QD2 plus QD1. That's it. تمام? So here we have two formulas, the percentage here formula and the midpoint formula. Right? So let us assume that if the consumer's income, if Ahmed's income increased by 30%. Therefore, hence, his consumption of chicken declined by 20%. calculate his consumption, his demand, the quantity demanded. قلنا calculate the income elasticity of demand and determine state the type of the product here. حدد نوع الدجاج هنا هيك ولا هيك frozen or fresh. So let's go to answer the question here. And the state or determine the type of a chicken here. Is it normal or inferior? Why? Income elasticity of demand equals change in quantity demanded percent over change in income percent. So, income elasticity of demand here equals change in quantity demanded. His consumption of a chicken goes down or went down by 20%. So here we have a negative sign. Minus 20% over. His income goes up by 30%, positive 30%. Minus 0.6. Here on, we are not talking about the absolute value. The question is, calculate the price, the income elasticity of demand. Is it elastic or inelastic? Because the absolute value is less than 1. هذا أول واحد. The demand here is inelastic. Because the absolute value is less than 1. This is the case here. Number 2. To determine or to state the type of the product here, we have a negative sign here, which means as the income goes up, the quantity demand goes down or went down. The chicken here is frozen. It's an inferior good. So the demand is inelastic because the absolute value of IED is less than 1. لو هذا بالabsolute value it's less than 1. And the chicken here is an inferior good. Here we're talking about frozen chicken, maybe. يعني frozen chicken when the product is necessary for the consumers. هيك معناه المدلول. The demand is inelastic. Inelastic means it's necessary for the consumers. صح? And they cannot give up it. He cannot give up it. Because the magnitudes or the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the magnitudes of change in income here. تمام؟ طيب. If the consumer's income, another question. طبعا هنا why? Because the IED sign, the sign of ED, the sign of income elasticity of demand is negative. If it was positive, the product will be normal here. تمام؟ ولا تمام. طيب another example. خلوا لي هذا هيك. The consumer's income went down by 30%. And the consumption or his consumption of a chicken went down by 50%. The scheme requirements. Income went down by 30%. Hence, the consumption declined, the quantity demanded declined by 50%. هيطلع elastic. هاي شوفوا. نمسح هذا هيك. Okay. The price elasticity of demand equals change in quantity demanded percent over the percent change in income. So IED equals the quantity demanded goes down by 50%, negative 50% over the percentage, and the consumer's income declined or went down by 30% minus 30% equals sign negative بروح مع بعض دول هيك equals positive 1.6, which means that the demand here is elastic and the product is normal here. مظبوط? Because the positive sign here. تمام؟ إذا هنا هيك demand is elastic because the absolute value of IED is positive or bigger than 1. And the chicken here is a normal good. Because then the sign here is positive. وهذا بنقول عنه ممكن يكون fresh chicken. تمام؟ Let's apply the midpoint formula. Let's apply the midpoint formula. مين عنده شيء غامض هنا؟ تمام. As we said that, the midpoint formula for the income elasticity of demand is as follow here. IED equals Q2 minus Q1 over I2 minus I1 times summation of income and sum of a quantity demanded. Okay? Let's have the following example here. If we have the following data, point, one, two, income, quantity demanded, 1,000 shekels, NIS, 1,200. Quantity demanded was 7, and this is unknown. If income elasticity of demand equals -2, how much is the quantity demanded of this product when income increased from 1,000 shekels to 1,200? Which means you have the following data. When your income was 1,000 shekels, your consumption, your demand was 7 units. This is units by number of units. Your consumption was 7. When the consumer's income, when your income increased to 1,200, from 1,000 to 1,200 shekels, what will happen to your consumption, your demand? I don't know. If the income elasticity of demand was -2, calculated. And determine the type of the product. Yani, how much is a Q2? This is I1, I2, QD1, QD2. And IED is known here. بيقول لي calculate Q2. Number 2, determine or state the type of the product. Is it normal or inferior? Why? طب من هيك قبل ما نحل. Is it normal or inferior? Inferior, because your negative sign of IED. طيب, solution إنه هيك راح يكون IED using this formula here. IED equals Q2 minus Q1 over I2 minus I1 times I2 plus I1 over Q2 plus Q1. So IED, sorry? هي لا, هذا بدنا نشتغل على الميد بوينت فورمولا. اشتغلوا على الميد بوينت بيضلها يعني the best يعني. تمام. You are free. You can use times I1 over QD1. That's it. يعني but this is يعني هذا اللي صرنا يعني نشتغل عليه بعد الميد بوينت, after the mid point. تمام. So IED here equals -2 equals Q2 minus Q1, Q2 minus QD1, 7, over I2 minus I1, 1,200 minus 1,000, times 1,200 plus 1,000 over Q2 plus 7. ضرب عادي وتبادلي هيك وبتحلوها. يصير لنا -2 equals Q2 minus 7 over 200 times 2,200 over Q2 plus 7. -2 equals Q2 minus 7 over times, خلي هذا تروح 200, هاي بيضل لنا 1 11. يصير لنا هذا times 11 over Q2 plus 7. صح؟ مظبوط؟ تمام. -2 equals 11 times Q2, 11 Q2 minus 77 over ضرب تبادلي هذا minus أو لا أعطول هيك Q2 plus 7. بدنا نعمل ضرب تبادل مقص. صح؟ اللي عندنا هيك -2 times Q2 plus 7 equals 11 Q2 minus 77. So -2 Q2 plus minus 14 equals 11 Q2 minus 77. ترحيل هيك -2 Q2 minus 11 Q2 equals minus 77 plus 14. So minus 13 Q2 equals minus 63. So Q2 equals minus 63 over minus 13 equals how much? Positive 4? 84. Okay. So the quantity demanded 2 here equals how much? 4.84. does this mean here? As the consumer's income goes up from 1,000 shekels to 1,200, the quantity demanded goes or went down from 7 to 4.8. The demand is, or the product here is an inferior. مظبوط؟ عادي. انت ممكن تشتري رطل السكر يعني 2 كيلو ونص سكر. عادي بصير صح؟ صح ولا لا؟ رجحت ميزه بيطلع عندك احيانا هيك، مظبوط ولا لا؟ صح؟ يعني اتس نوت نيسيسري، لازم تعد بني ادمين. تمام؟ Okay, let's go to the cross price elasticity of demand. Okay, break 2 minutes. Okay, let's go to the cross price elasticity of demand. Cross price elasticity of demand. But before that, let's come back to the relationship between the products, different products, like the demand for or the price of fuel and demand for cars. The price of meat and demand or quantity demanded for chicken. Price of cars and demand for computers. I think that we had an idea about this point. As we mentioned that as the price of a fuel goes up, the demand for cars goes down. These two products are complement. There is a complementary relations between the prices and the prices of one product, product X, and the quantity demanded or demand for product Y, right? So if the sign here positive, negative, the final result would be negative. Positive times negative, negative. These two products are complements. This is the product X, the price of X, and the quantity demanded of Y. Or the price of A and the quantity demanded of B. Product A and the product B. تمام? Here, the price of meat and the quantity demanded of chicken. As the price of meat goes up, the quantity demanded for chicken goes up as well. Because the consumers will try to substitute these products. These two products are what? Substitutes. The sign here is positive. Positive times positive, the final result will be positive. The price, yes, in chapter 2. هذا أخذناه. لقيت هذا numerical بدنا نعالجه في elasticity. تمام؟ طيب. As the price of meat goes down, the demand for chicken goes down. صح؟ So it should be positive. If the sign is positive here, these two products are substitutes. هذا zero. ما فيش, there is no relations between computers and cars, so the increasing the price of cars has no effects on the demand for computers. So these two products are independent. تمام. هذا وين بدي استخدمه في elasticity. في حاجة اسمها cross price elasticity of demand. مرون طلب تقاطعية. تقاطعية. يعني هذا هيك or cross price elasticity of demand. سموها cross price CPED, cross price elasticity of demand. لما نقول for product B compared to A, for B, product B compared to A equals QD2, QD for B percent over the percentage change in price, the change in price of A في المية. If the price of a product A increased by 1%, what will happen to the demand for product B? Goes up, goes down, on a change. هذا depends on طبعا to determine انه شو شكل العلاقه الشيء relations between product A and B. هنا الساين is important. يعني لو هنا هيك in this case, in the first case, as the price of a product A increased by 1% and the quantity demanded of a product B cars goes down. شو العلاقة هذا goes down هيك by 5%. شو معنى? What does this mean? The sign will be negative. So the product B and A are what? Complements. These two products are complements. طيب, if the price of product A will meet goes up and the demand for chicken goes up as well, هتطلع الساين positive. So these two products are substitutes. طيب, if price of product A increased and had unchanged, يعني كان 7 وظل 7, بيطلع زيرو, هذا بيكون independent goods. هناخذ example. مش فاهمين صح؟ بالاكزام ايه؟ هذا فهمه؟ فهمه كويس؟ والعاه فاهمينه كويس ولا مش فاهمين؟ هذا هيك. طب خلي لي هذا على شقه. بده يوضح في اكزامبل ثاني هلقيت. Compliments. Let's have the following example to understand the idea of the cross price elasticity of demand. We have the following table. We have 3 products. Price, quant demanded, product A, product B, and the product C. And let us assume that we have the following data. Prices 10, 20, 5, if price per unit of a product A increased from 10 to 15. This has followed by the following changes. And this leads to the following changes. Price QD, product A, B, C. Gonna calculate price. نبدأ في هذا ونشوف ايش خلصتوا؟ Okay. In this example, we are going to study the relationship between different bundles of goods or different groups or different products. And we have the following data. Product A, here we have the prices, one demanded, product A, product B, product C. The price of a product A was 10. The quant demanded was 100. Product B, the price was 20. Quant demanded was 62. Product C, 5 and 90. Now, the price of a product A goes up or went up from 10 to 15. This has followed by the following changes. The price of product A increased from 10 to 15. And ceteris paribus, the prices of product B and C remain constant without changes, which means the price of product B and C remains constant. But the change in the price A leads to the following changes. As the price of a product A goes up from 10 to 15, the quantity demanded goes down or went down from 100 to 80. هذا اللي mean for the same product. وهذا logical. صح؟ الثيوري هيك بتقول as the price of product A goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. Right? As the price of product A goes up, the quantity demanded of product B goes up from 62 to 70. As the price of A goes up, the quantity demanded of product C goes down from 90 to 85. صح؟ هذا الجيفن data. بيقول لي calculate the cross price elasticity of demand for product B compared to A. And state the relationship between product A and B. And state the relationship between product A and B. And is it elastic or inelastic? تمام? Now, to start solution here, we have to determine the type of relations here, or determine the points. The requirements here is to calculate the cross price elasticity of demand for product B compared to A. مين انذكر في الأول؟ B. B compared to A. So the requirement here is the cross price elasticity of demand for B compared to A. اللي بنذكر في الأول بيكون في البسط وهذا في المقام. Equals change in required demanded percent over هذا لمين؟ لB. over هذا A الثاني انذكر بده يجي في المقام. يصير change in price for A في المية. تمام؟ اللي هو هذا هيك CPED B compared to A equals Q2 QD2 for B. QB2 minus QB1 over PA2 minus PA1. يعني Q2 minus Q1 over P2 minus P1. بس مين اللي انذكره؟ times مجموع هذول على مجموع هذول. هذا الميد بوينت. midpoint formula times PA2 plus PA1 over QP2 plus QP1. A change in required demanded over change in the price. صح؟ هيو هيك ما فيش فيه. The same as the verse before. Okay? So here we have to determine the points. هذا price of product A يعني PA1 صح؟ هذا كله 1 صح؟ لو هذا before وهذا كله after 2 مظبوط؟ هذا الكلاسيفيكيشنز صار عندنا هذا كله هيك 1 وهنا في السكجول هذا 2 صح؟ هذا البرايس اوف A 1 وهذا quantity demanded of A هذا 1 يعني خلينا نقول QA 1 صح؟ طيب هذا price of P1 وهذا Q of B1 هذا price of C1 وهذا QC1. إذا حددت صح خلص السؤال. طب نيجي لهذا 2 هذا price of A 2 هذا كله 2 table 2 هذا table 2 وهذا table 1 4 so P A2 وهذا P B2 هذا P C2 صح؟ مظبوط؟ طب نيجي هنا Q A2 ليش 1 كله 2 Q B2 Q C2 صح؟ تاني تمام على الفورمولا على طول هيك CP E D B convert to A equals QB2 minus QB1 over PA2 minus PA1 times QB2 where's the QB2 Q هي 70 إذا حددت صح خلص السؤال هذا 70 minus QP1 Q 62 over PA2 minus PA1 PA2 15 minus PA110 times مجموع هذول مجموع هذول sum هذول مجموع 15 plus 10 over 70 plus 62. So CPED equals positive 8 over positive 5 times 15, 25 over 132. So B compared to A equals, how much is it? 1, 5, 40 over 132, 0 point, how much? 330. هيك 0.3. Okay. Positive. So here, the demand is inelastic because the absolute value here is less than 1. Number 2, what is the relationship between the product A and B? Are they, or is it complementary relations or substitute? Substitutes, because increasing the price of a product A, BA, leads to increasing the quant demand for product B. على فكرة أنا من التيبل بقدر لحالي أعرف شو شكل العلاقة. دجاج ولحم ولا فيول مع cars. إذن هنا state the relationship between product A and B. نقول as the sign here of cross price elasticity of demand for product B compared to A is positive. شو الوضع؟ They are substitutes. لأن هذول product A and B are substitutes. طب طلعوا لي هنا هيك في التيبل A and C. لو قال لي C compared to A. The price of A طلع from 10 to 15. The quantity demanded of C, it was 90. ونزل to 85. Are they complements or substitutes? Complements. يعني حتكون negative sign هذا. صح؟ Smooth? Like the fuel demand, price of fuel and demand for cars. طب خذوا assignment هذا اشتغلوا عليه. Calculate the cross price elasticity of demand for product C compared to A, and state the relationship between product A and C. هذا واحد. Number 3, calculate. هذا في الاساينمنت بدي تشتغلوا على هيك. Calculate cross price elasticity of demand for product C compared to A. بمعنى شو بدكم تشتغلوا؟ C compared to A خلاص يعني. تمام؟ هذا واحد. C compared to A. تمام؟ Number 2, طبعا and state the relationship between product A and C. This depends on the sign here. Number 3, calculate the price elasticity of demand for product A. Is it elastic or inelastic? Number 4, calculate the total revenue for product A before and after changes in the prices. Calculate total revenue of or generated, total revenue generated from selling product A before and after change in prices. Before and after the change in prices. Before increasing the prices A from 10 to 15. قديش كان التوتال ريفينيو وقديش صار؟ يعطيكم العافية.